Hello and welcome. Today, we are talking about money and nutrition on Penn State's Financial and Life Skills Money Count series. I am very excited for today as we have a special guest, Ali Probst, my colleague, here to talk about money and nutrition with us. She's been here for about a year and a half at the Financial and Life Skills Center and has done wonders in terms of presentations for students. So she's got some really great tips that she's going to share with us today. So this webinar series is held the second and fourth Tuesdays of every month, and you can see our scheduled topics on our website. The website is on the screen in front of you. It's financialliteracy.psu.edu. We're going to be here throughout the presentation for any questions that you have, as well as at the end for a few minutes. If you're more comfortable, you're welcome to also email either one of us at finlit@psu.edu if you have any thoughts to share at a later time. So there's only a couple of us in here today, and I want to highlight that Zoom does offer a chat feature, which is a really cool space that you can kind of engage with us and with each other. I'm a really big proponent of sharing knowledge with each other, so I think that's an awesome place if you have any tips or tricks in terms of how you manage your finances. That's a great place to go. You can find that chat window in your toolbar, or since there's only a few of us, feel free to unmute yourself and ask us any questions as they come up throughout this webinar. So today we are going to be launching a couple of polls out to you. And the way that you participate in those polls is when the screen pops up on your screen in front of you, go ahead and click the one that is most, the answer that fits what you feel. And I think it's a great idea to know that this is a recorded webinar and that these polls are anonymous. So feel free to reply with what's actually in your heart. So let's go ahead and let's get started today. So today is all about making sure that you all walk away from this webinar with the ability to make sound and informed financial decisions and be able to make good choices in both your money management and your health management habits. And I know these seem like very different or separate concepts, but they're actually incredibly related. And there's so many transferable skills in how you manage your money and how you budget to how you manage your health and how you approach your lifestyle. So we're going to look at a couple of ways that you can make these sound choices when it comes to both your money and nutrition. So today we're going to discuss these basic concepts around money, and then we're also going to relate those directly to how you approach nutrition. My hope for you all throughout this webinar series is to build this understanding of these basic concepts and maybe recognize some of the similarities that are out there between money management and nutrition management. And then share with each other tips for becoming more mindful about what goes into your food choices and how that can help you achieve your financial goals. Ali's going to share some of these amazing tips, as well as ways that you can save money while you're shopping for healthy food, and sharing how managing our diets can also help us learn how to manage our financial health as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Ali. I am Lauren's coworker in the Financial and Life Skills Center. I'm thrilled to be here today to talk to you guys about money and nutrition. I have found that in college, a lot of focus is put on things like our mental health and our physical health. But I think almost as important, if not just as important, is our financial health, especially working in this role at the Financial and Life Skills Center. But I encourage you guys to think about, if you haven't already, how your financial health and things like your mental and physical health kind of go hand in hand. We have a poll question for you all. We want to ask you what you feel like your biggest hurdle to eating healthy is at this point in your life.
Again, how you participate in that poll is just go ahead and click the answer on your screen in front of you that fits your personal hurdle the most.
And keep in mind that these are anonymous, so feel free to answer however really fits how you're feeling.
And I'm also going to put a little chat in the chat window so that it might be easier for you all to see that and be able to navigate to that chat window.
So it looks like you guys are saying that your biggest hurdles are time, feeling like you're very busy, finances, feeling like eating healthy is a bit too expensive, and your family habits. So the fact that you weren't raised with healthy eating habits and find it kind of difficult to make that switch. So I think that's pretty typical. I think whenever we ask college students or really anyone what their biggest hurdles to healthy eating are, it's typically time and money. So that's huge. We want to help you kind of navigate the money side of healthy eating and talk about these things as a group. So like Lauren said earlier, we do really appreciate knowledge sharing. So if you have something that works really well for you, feel free to share, whether that is chatting in the chat room or unmuting your microphone and just talking to us. We are absolutely open to new ideas and new ways of thinking about this, because this really isn't such a set concept that it can't change.
I'd also love to hear some of you are maybe nutrition majors out there that might have some tips from the industry in terms of how to manage money and nutrition. So Allie is going to tell us a little bit more about budgeting and how budgeting and healthy eating are similar.
So I want to highlight here that with the use of the word dieting, we're talking about how budgeting and dieting are similar. But when we say dieting, we, in this context, are not insinuating that we are restricting food and calories and eating a lower calorie diet. We're using the word dieting to be insinuating that we are eating healthy foods and eating nutritious foods. So let's talk about budgeting and the concept of financial literacy. We know that financial literacy is a marriage of these three things on the screen: knowledge, action, and behavior changes. You can't become financially literate without all three of these things. So the reality is that you could be an expert on financial literacy and know everything that there is to know, but if you're not actually applying what you know into your life and changing your behaviors, then that knowledge doesn't help you at all. The same is actually true with living a healthy lifestyle. So to live a healthy lifestyle, you need not only knowledge, but you also need to apply that knowledge into your life and take actions and change your behaviors. So as we're going through this today, I want you all to be thinking about how you can apply what you learn and actually change your behaviors in your daily lives. Again, if anyone has some really great ways or tips that they currently already apply this knowledge, absolutely feel free to share. So I think a common misconception is that you can't eat healthy on a budget because junk food is more filling and more affordable. You guys can feel free to chat in the chat window. Do you guys feel like that's true? Okay. Well, I think we kind of got that in the poll earlier.
Someone says somewhat. I think that eating foods in season is important.
Absolutely, and that's a good way to save money kind of on fresh produce as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I do think a common misconception is that you can't really eat healthy on a budget because junk food is more affordable. But I challenge you all that researchers found that healthy foods do in fact cost a little bit more, but maybe not as much as you would think. Perhaps the most important finding of this study is that they determined that a reasonably healthy diet costs about $1.50 more per day per person than an unhealthy diet. So if you think about that yearly, that's around $550 extra a year that you would be spending on healthy foods versus junk or unhealthy foods.
$550 is really not that much of the course of a whole year to really make sure that your health is a pertinent part of your life.
Absolutely not, especially when you think about what comes with long-term factors of unhealthy eating. So for example, high blood pressure and heart disease are both food-related diseases. And so we think about $550 a year it would cost to eat a more healthy, nutritious budget. But healthcare visits, doctor's visits, and medicine for those food-related diseases are much more than that. So we did a little research into this on what these costs look like. Blood pressure medicine is around $700 to $800 a year for doctor's visits and prescription medications. Medications for heart failure are outrageous, on average $438 a month, which comes out to almost $5,000 a year. So I know that is dark and not positive, and these are all consequences of not living a healthy lifestyle. So next, Lauren is going to talk about what living healthy and eating healthy actually will bring you.
So some of the benefits of a healthy lifestyle include being able to kind of have a sense of control over your own weight. Like Ali said, this is not necessarily about dieting as in being restrictive. It is really all about making sure that you're living a good lifestyle for yourself. Healthy lifestyles can help you have a great mood. And I find that when I'm living healthy, I have a sense of optimism and positivity that's kind of coursing through my life as I'm making positive choices in my diet. This is also a way that you can respond to disease and maybe empower you to respond to some of the challenges of your family's health. I know I have a long line in my family of having heart disease, and this is kind of a way that I can mitigate some of those fears that I have around some of my family's health and really balance my goal of living a longer and healthier life and improving my overall longevity. These are things that I feel like a healthy lifestyle helps me take advantage of and just be a part of my own process, my own program. I like to say that your health is your wealth, and that goes back to the idea of what Ali was explaining earlier, that really ultimately living a healthy lifestyle is financially literate, because over the course of your life, you're going to be saving money on doctor's visits, and you're going to be able to pursue those passions that you all have for a lot longer. My family raised me going to national parks for every holiday and really enjoying the outdoors. And I know that when I am a much older individual, I'm going to be still continuing to pursue those passions as opposed to worrying about what my next doctor visit is going to look like.
Absolutely. For me, living a healthy lifestyle is all about balance. I'm someone who loves pizza, but I know that if I have pizza for dinner one night, maybe the next night I'm going to plan on having like chicken and vegetables. It's all about balance for me. And I know when I eat healthy, I do feel much more positive. I've got a lot more energy during the day, and I love to run. That's something I'm really passionate about and something that I know brings me joy and makes me feel good. So I do make sure that the food that I'm eating is fueling my body to do those long runs.
That is excellent. So I know that when we're talking about this, these kind of factors are similar to financial wellness in the sense that it is easier said than done. Absolutely. So we're going to kind of start to move into this portion where we start to share some tips about how to frame this conversation with you all and about how to navigate all of these kind of financial and health decisions in your lives. So let's look at some of the factors that could guide your food choices, right? Because we want to realize that this is a very interdisciplinary subject. So one of the first factors that guide our food choices are social and cultural determinants. And typically we're speaking about what ingredients are local and available to you, maybe some family habits and meal patterns that you've experienced. For example, when I was growing up, my family definitely was one of those families that sat down and had a meal every night together. We didn't necessarily eat breakfast or lunch consistently. And so that kind of social and cultural determinant has kind of carried forward in my life. I try to sit down for a dinner meal, but I don't always get to where I'm eating a consistent breakfast. So this is an opportunity for me to improve. I know, Ali, you still carry with you a lot of your family habits too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really value sitting down and eating dinner like as a family, just because that's how I grew up. And And even thinking, you mentioned breakfast. So that's something that my partner and I try and do like every morning, is just sit down for 20 minutes and have a nutritious breakfast together. So that definitely has carried through kind of in me growing up. It's something I really value.
That's awesome. That's goals right there. So another thing that is guiding our food choices could be economic or environmental determinants. And I know one of you out there suggested eating foods that are in season and maybe local produce. That can be something that can help guide what food you're eating at which point, and whether you actually have access to fresh fruits and vegetables is incredibly challenging. I know in State College we just got an amazing Target downtown, and I think that has really opened up a world for students that live either on campus or right in the downtown vicinity, because before it was pretty difficult to get to a grocery store. But what that also looks like is checking out where in your location, what are the local farmers markets, and maybe you can take advantage of those. Another factor that guides our food choices are personal determinants, such as our knowledge around food, food management and cooking skills. Maybe your work or your school schedule and the time that you have to dedicate to food can help guide what your food choices are. Other areas in this factor include your attitude and maybe some of your core beliefs around what food should be in your life. For example, let's say you adopt a balanced lifestyle and you take cooking lessons and organize your food choices to include superfoods and organics. Maybe taking an approach like that could help you build better food choices in your life. Another aspect that affects us are health and fitness determinants. So maybe you're someone that has an allergy or are predisposed to genetic challenges or weight management challenges. Maybe that helps guide what your food choices are. I know for me, I'm a big fitness person and I really enjoy working out. And so a lot of times that influences how much protein I'm taking in, and I kind of approach it from a macro perspective. The fifth kind of concept of what guides our food choices is marketing and advertising, including news, articles, TV, commercials, any kind of social media we might be seeing. Claims on nutrition labels are a big thing that help guide food choices. I know something that is interesting for me is kind of the new fitness revolution around protein bars. And I am definitely guided and attracted to the different advertising that focuses in on what those nutrition bars are supposed to do for me in my life and my lifestyle.
Absolutely, I can agree with that.
So we have another poll to ask and find out, what are your motivations and what guides your food choices?
And you guys can actually choose more than one here. We would love to hear about what you feel like is guiding your food choices the most.
It's hard to pick just one and really understand where,
Totally.
because it's a true balance of so many different aspects about your personality and your identity and what you're trying to do in that moment.
So it looks like the highest one is actually health and fitness, and I can definitely relate to that. I know Lauren said she could as well. I think probably the biggest one for me is social and cultural. We kind of talked about that earlier, how I really value sitting down as a family and eating together and sharing our daily experiences over a meal. But I also really value health and fitness. I can relate to that absolutely. I mentioned earlier that I'm someone that loves to run, and I really love training for long runs, like half marathons and marathons. So something that I make sure that I do is fuel my body with healthy carbs, things like sweet potatoes and rice and even protein shakes. So absolutely, I can relate to that.
So going back to this idea of health and financial literacy, I think it's very interesting to recognize that probably predominantly what gets couponed, what products are offering coupons to buy one or buy two or get 50% off typically aren't the most nutritious foods. And I think it's interesting to recognize that maybe we should pay attention to the overall budget of what we're putting towards our food. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that now as opposed to what might be discounted or on coupon. So do you all think that you should create an eating plan that fits your budget, create a budget that fits your eating plan? There's not a right answer here. And I think what's interesting is that Allie and I, while we're both very health conscious and fitness motivated and financially motivated, I think it's interesting to note that we approach this from different perspectives. Either way, you need to have your budget in balance. And so an example of creating a budget that fits my eating plan for me is that I really approach my diet as what is driving my food choices. So I personally am a vegetarian, and I've been a vegetarian for quite a few years now in my life. And for me, I tend to figure out what I want to eat that week and then see how much that costs. And after a couple of years, I've kind of honed in on what my budget is. Something that I'm not willing to compromise are on plant-based faux meat products. And I know that these are kind of gaining popularity now, which I am super excited about. But I think that if I eliminated these plant-based meat products from my diet, I would be a carnivarian and I would have a much different kind of nutrition plan. And so I tend to let that drive how much money I spend on food.
Absolutely. So you kind of create a budget that fits your eating plan. So I'm kind of the opposite in that I create my eating plan that fits into my budget. So my partner and I, we live together, and how we kind of approach grocery shopping and splitting up those types of things is that we spend together $100 a week on groceries, and we switch who pays every other week. So it's balanced out in that way. But within that $100, we do find some nutritious foods, and we make sure that we prioritize healthy foods, things like healthy proteins, healthy carbs, and healthy fats. But we know that we've only got $100 a week to spend. So in that way, we're kind of opposite. We create an eating plan that fits into that $100 a week budget.
So let's look at a recommended budget.
So this is considered a healthy sample budget. I'm sure if you guys have been on these webinars in the past, you've seen this before. This is really popular in our office. But this was developed by the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. They found that people that followed budgets that kind of looked like this one rated high on 3 measures. Those were overall happiness, financial security, and job satisfaction. So those are 3 really good things that I want for everyone listening to this webinar. If someone handed you those things in a basket, I'm sure you would take them. That's good stuff. So I want to highlight a few things about this budget. The first is that this is based on your net income. So your net income is your gross income minus taxes and deductions. So we want to highlight that first. Also, a few really good things come out of this budget. The first number we've got here is saving. You should always be saving at least 10%. It's also good to spend less than 30% on housing. So since we're talking about food, I want to highlight that the food budget is 20%. So ideally you are spending 20% or less of your net monthly income on food. But let's look at what that food budget could look like in a little bit more detail. So this is a sample nutrition budget. This is not based on research, so this could look totally different for you depending on what your food determinants are, like we talked about earlier. But developing something like this could help you to become more intentional about how you're actually spending your money and the foods that you're buying. So in my example, our weekly grocery budget is $100. So instead of going to the grocery store and throwing things in our cart till we've got $100, what we do is instead break up that $100 and figure out, where each portion of our budget and our actual grocery budget is going to be going. So in this example that we put together, we've only set junk food at 5%. So in my $100 example, that's $5. That could be a pack of cookies, but that's it, right? It really is all about balance. Remember that budgeting and healthy eating are similar in that way. We don't want either of those things to feel too restrictive, or it could cause us to go off the rails, right? So we want to think about this in a balanced approach.
So to dive a little bit into how you can approach both money and nutrition and finding that balance, right? So the way that we approach a budget, if you have been on these webinars before, you've heard me say this, the idea is that you are kind of gathering information about your life. You're deciding on what your nutritional requirements are, what your nutritional goals are, and then determining how much of your overall diet should be going towards that, how much of your overall budget should be going to that. Setting a specific budget around your food is incredibly helpful because that helps you compare how you do month to month. We all know that we have months that we are on top of everything, and then we have months that are a little bit more difficult for ourselves. And so having this goal in mind can just help you be more aware and attentive to your overall financial life. So, and then you're tracking your food. So we have some amazing fitness trackers, and there are some amazing nutrition trackers, and you can log what your food is. Similar to budgeting, you need to log what you're spending and be aware of how many swipes you're swiping your card in the weekend. And then taking a look and seeing if you can bring those into balance a little bit more. Remember that every meal counts, every weekend counts, every swipe counts. So if you feel like you spent a little bit too much money last month, that's okay. Reset and go forward. Recognize that maybe your goals are a specific number of times eating out this upcoming month. So let's look a little bit more into how you can save money and shop for healthy foods. So we like to break this up into 3 kind of intentional portions where you bring a focus to each stage here. So the first stage will be planning and plan ahead before you shop. The second stage is actually buying the food, right? Actually going out and picking it up and shopping for it. And the third stage is preparing it. And so in each of these stages, we have tips that you can help you save a little bit of money and still eat well. So the first stage, right, is all about planning and shopping for your healthy foods. Here is a different approach that maybe you don't initially think of. And Allie brought up a great point earlier when we were discussing this today. She typically finds out that students love to find that recipe that they're really excited to make and then go out and shop for all of those ingredients. But I think that is a little bit backwards in a sense. Why don't you start by looking into what you already have in your fridge and then go to the supermarket and design a meal plan for your week that balances what's already in your fridge and what's already in your pantry. I cannot tell you how many times we end up at the supermarket and we're like, oh my God, did we already have this? So try to just be very intentional about it and make sure that you're at least snapping a picture of your freezing in your fridge before you head out. That is my favorite thing when we are short on time on the weekend. I just run to my fridge and I grab a picture really fast so that as I'm walking around the store, there's no doubt in my mind what's in that fridge. It's also important that you are realistic about eating out, right? Plan for meals for the week. Make sure that you have an intentional goal in what you want to eat, but then also account for a little bit of fun. Same thing for budgeting that we say. Try to plan in that fun because just like anything else in life, you really have to have it all in balance. I try to reach out early in the week to my friends so I can plan my social outings accordingly so I know how much I'm going to spend on a weekend eating out and how I need to plan for that week through a meal prep.
Absolutely. I love that you mentioned snapping a picture of your fridge. That is something I've never thought of before, but that's a great idea. I feel like I need to start using that in my life. I want to highlight, kind of based on planning, a really great resource is allrecipes.com. So how that works is So Lauren mentioned shopping in your own fridge, freezer, and pantry first, and then going to the supermarket. So what you can do is figure out things that you have, products that are going to go bad in the next few weeks that you need to use up, and put those products into allrecipes.com. They'll actually spit out recipes that show you what you can make with the ingredients that you already have on hand. So that those recipes can show you what you might need to pick up extra to make those things. That's a really great way to use up the things that you have so that they don't go bad. Again, that was allrecipes.com. It's been such a lifesaver, and I've made a few pretty cool things that I probably wouldn't have thought of without using that. I encourage you all to check it out. I think they have an app as well. So the next step, after you have shopped, or after you have planned, now is the time to shop. So we're actually purchasing these foods. Just some quick tips for shopping. If there's something that is on sale that you usually get, something that you like, that is healthy, and that won't go bad before you can use it, buy 2 or 3 of those things. Again, be reasonable. You don't want to buy things that are going to go bad before you get the chance to use them. But if it's something that you love and it's on sale, why not stock up? I think one that we sometimes forget about that is a really great way to save money is compare per unit pricing to get the best deal. So that is looking at the price per ounce of what it is that you're buying. I love to look at produce and compare like things like mushrooms. I always buy mushrooms. Sliced mushrooms versus unsliced mushrooms, they have a big price discrepancy in the per ounce price. So I know that if I buy unsliced mushrooms and slice them up myself, it takes like 2 minutes. I can save a whole lot of money over time in that way. I also want to highlight that frozen veggies do carry the same nutrients as fresh. So for me, I'm all about the frozen broccoli. It is so much easier for me to just buy it, cook it up in the microwave, and throw it in my lunch. I know that is more realistic for me and cheaper, also quicker. We want to challenge you guys to a grocery shopping challenge. I guarantee that if you commit to only going to one store once a week, you will save a whole lot of money. So let's say, for example, you run out of milk on Thursday and your grocery shopping day is a Sunday. I challenge you, instead of running out just to buy milk and probably a few other things that look good to you in that moment, to just wait, add it to your list, and get it on Sunday during your shopping day. I also want to highlight here Walmart pickup. If you are someone who has a car and typically shops at Walmart but hates going inside, maybe you feel like you have a list and every time you go into Walmart you always get tricked into buying more things that maybe look good to you or that weren't on your list or weren't healthy. Walmart pickup is a great resource. You can make your list. They have an app. You throw things on there and it shows you how your cart total is growing. So earlier I mentioned my partner and I, we stick to $100 a week, and Walmart pickup is exactly how we do that. If we've got $108, maybe a few things in there that maybe we don't need, we just get rid of them. So it's really cool in that you can plan and really stick to your budget using it.
For many of the grocery stores I find when I walk in, the first thing that's right in front is the decorative festive cupcakes for whatever the holiday is, or specifically what is maybe the less nutritious quick grab items, because we tend to shop hungry. And I think that it is a really great idea because when you realize that you're running out of milk on Thursday, it is a quick thing that you can immediately put onto that either Walmart list or really any of the grocery stores have a to-go pickup app nowadays. You can immediately start to build your list from there. And then you're ensuring that you're only going to get exactly what you need. And you get about an hour and a half on your weekend again, which is an excellent thing. If you are a student out there, this can still be a great opportunity for you to pick up a couple things. I think for the Walmart app, the minimum is $30. And it is an awesome opportunity. Another thing is the Sam's, if you have Sam's Club membership, you can scan as you're moving throughout that store. I know my significant other and I, we land ourselves in the back of the store re-evaluating what's in our cart when we hit our budget. And it's a really cool way to kind of make sure that you're nailing that overall monthly budget and accounting for the things you do care about in life. I know when I just started budgeting, I realized that we had gone to the grocery store about 20 times in a month. And what I realized was happening was that I was shopping the sales. So I was trying to get my red bell peppers at Weis as opposed to Walmart because I was going to save 50 cents. Well, how often do you walk into a grocery store and come out with only the one thing that you went in there for? Very rarely, right? So the reality is we took this shopping challenge and we only went to one store per week, which dramatically cut our budget. Even if I had to spend a little bit more on peppers, it saved me from buying all those extra little things.
Absolutely. So I remember earlier you guys said some of your biggest challenges to healthy eating were time and money. Using something like a grocery pickup can help you in both of those ways because you are not impulse buying things, you're saving money, and you're also saving time. Like Lex said, maybe freeing up an hour or two on your weekend. So the next step is to actually prepare and cook this stuff and make yourself some nutritious, healthy, and relatively cheap meals. So I think the biggest one here is to learn to cook. I know in college I didn't know how to make too many things. I mostly lived on eggs, chicken, broccoli, and rice. But you know what? That got me by. Those are all relatively cheap and relatively healthy. And I encourage you. I know most college students, or I don't want to say most, some college students don't know how to cook, but now's a great time to learn. Even if you only have like 3 or 4 key meals that you know how to make and that you like, that's a great idea. I'm also a big proponent of planning your meals out on the whiteboard. I do this every single Sunday. I write out our 6 meals for the week, so I know what we need to buy when we shop. And if I'm ever, say it's a Wednesday night, and I'm looking in the fridge and I'm like, oh, what am I going to eat? I know I have a list right in front of my face that shows what we've eaten already. That'll be crossed out. And what our options are to cook. So whenever we're like, we have no food, let's order Domino's or Chinese, we're like, no, we have these fresh foods here right in front of us. All we need to do is prepare them. So I love that idea. I also think it's really important to be realistic with your schedule. If you have class until 8 p.m. on Thursday and you've got a club meeting at 8:30, I wouldn't plan to go home and cook a feast for yourself on Thursday night. You might want to be a little more realistic in that way. Plan to either get something really quickly at the dining commons or a grab and go option at the hub, or even just prep yourself some healthy snacks to get you through until you can get home and maybe microwave or cook something. Lastly, I love the idea of storing successful recipes that you know that you love in a binder so that whenever you are thinking about what to make for the next week and what you might need to buy, that you can just reference your binder and go for it. So we've talked a lot about saving money and shopping for healthy foods, but let's talk about some other challenges and how you might overcome those.
So one of the biggest challenges that we've talked about is time, right? And I think that being intentional with your time and setting a certain space for this in your life, making it a priority for you. I know for me, I make no plans on a Sunday afternoon because I know that that is my time to know. If I miss that time, my whole week turns into chaos, right? The other thing we've talked about is motivation. Find something that's bigger that you're trying to do in your life, like something that you're truly motivated by. It makes it so much easier to actually follow a plan. Something that I absolutely find to be helpful in terms of motivation, what I find myself going out to eat for is community and enjoying the atmosphere of my friends and family. And so I've tried to instill a weekly potluck with my community. And I think that is a really great opportunity for you all to support each other in some of your bigger goals. I know it helps to have a community when you're trying to do anything new, like a fitness goal or a financial goal. And so making and organizing something that helps people still come together and serve their bigger purposes in life and their bigger motivations can help you meet multiple different levels of goals in your life. And that'll help you also balance your health and your social events. Make this something that is a part of your friend group. We have an amazing student ambassador that has a pizza night every Thursday. So instead of going out to eat on Thursday night, her and her friends all get together and they make different types of pizzas every single week without fail. And it's a really cool, creative way to use the leftovers that are in their fridge collectively. Something that is a common challenge is being just too exhausted. And this goes back to an opportunity to change one small thing in your daily life. For me, being too exhausted looked like always going home and kind of grabbing whatever was on top of in my fridge on the first shelf, right? What I did to find a little bit more energy in my life was kind of retool my closet and make sure that it wasn't so difficult to set myself up for success in my workout bag and in my overall fridge. I made sure that on the top shelf was more snap pea crisps or the ability to have like a celery stick right there as opposed to something that was less nutritious such as leftovers. And really try to rebalance and focus by starting small, right? Incorporating one real food in your life. Swap a cookie for a banana every couple times a week. Maybe you have seltzers ready and available in your fridge as opposed to sodas. These are little things that you can do that can help you meet your overall goals.
So here we have some quick tips. I think we talked about a lot of these already. So take a second just to kind of quickly read through these and absorb if you feel like that would be helpful. But we also want to encourage you guys to take this time to share any other quick tips that you guys might have with us and with each other.
Someone on our chat window said, spoke to eating food that is in season. And I think trying to grow a garden is a really cool and interesting way that you can take advantage of some of these beautiful days and summer weather that we have in State College. There are a variety of community gardens. There's a vegetable cellar on campus. And really just, even if you don't have the personal time to grow the food, supporting others around you that do, maybe in your community by going to the local farmer's market or checking out the vegetable cellar or getting involved with the student farm on campus. It can be a really cool opportunity to get a little closer to your food choices and recognize what is able to be grown locally. So feel free to keep sharing those quick tips in that chat window or even at the end of the presentation. But we're going to keep going today. So we're going to get to where you guys have time to ask any questions. So in terms of drawing similarities between nutrition management and budget management, some of the steps that you take are incredibly similar to each other. So in terms of financial decisions, having an awareness of different investments that are out there and different factors that are influencing your finances can go back to being aware of what is in the nutrition label and taking the time to research that nutrition label. If it has something that you can't necessarily pronounce, maybe look a little bit more into that or try to find a less processed product. Someone is sharing a tip right now that is recommending looking for off brands, maybe not a name brand item, because those are usually cheaper and just as tasty. I think that is a great recommendation. And they're also sharing that there might be a Bent and Dent store, maybe looking for those discount aisles. I know in the back of Walmart, there's always a little bit of a cart that has some clearance items that are still good that might help you save money. And that's an excellent couple of tips. Going back to comparing money management, nutrition management, comparing various financial packages relates directly to that tip, right? Explore alternatives and maybe some substitutions. I know for me, I try to balance my plant-based meat products and actually getting cans of beans and alternative protein sources. So maintaining your health goes back to managing your wealth, and keeping those two in check can help you with both goals because they kind of go hand in hand. The idea of controlling your needs and your wants, really being aware of what is a nutritious choice for dinner and what do you really want to eat. It goes back to balancing how much you're spending on your needs that really are what help you in your overall life goals and your wants. So for the students out there, Allie's going to talk about how you can take action in your life right now.
Absolutely. So I think sometimes for students, the idea of budgeting can be not so realistic at this point because you guys are like, well, we have no money to budget. But I challenge you with that you can actually start to budget your meal points. That is a really great way to start applying these concepts into your life right now. So one of our student ambassadors actually developed this whole meal points budget after she started freshman year and ran out because she got Starbucks a lot. So we thank her for this because this is really helpful. This is showing you based on which meal plan level that you chose, what you have in spendable dining dollars per semester, and the comparison of how many meals you could eat if you chose to chose to go to the dining commons or to the hub. So what really sticks out to me here is that if you get food from the hub, and these are approximates, but if you get food from the hub, you get a whole lot less meals a week than if you were to go to the dining commons. I also want to mention that we say meal points, but these meal points should be treated as actual money because they absolutely are. You have paid for these things. So let's break it down a little bit more. This one is showing you based on which level you got, how much you have to spend per month, per week, and per day. These dollars per day are pretty accurate. And I know I do a lot of presentations around campus and I show this to freshmen especially, and they are baffled at how much they actually should be spending per day versus how much they are currently spending per day. So if this sticks out to you, just take note. Maybe, I know one thing our students say that they love to do is if they do decide to get the hub one day, that's probably almost their current daily meal points budget. They have to think about the next day or over the next few days, what they need to do to balance that out. So maybe that's going to the dining commons instead of getting food from the hub. Again, it's all about balance. That's really what budgeting is all about.
So let's do a poll and find out, what do you all do when you run out of meal points? And if the answer is not in the poll options on your screen in front of you, please feel free to share that in the chat window. We would love to find out because we actually support students on a daily basis trying to navigate this challenge. I know when I used to run out of meal points, I think my go-to was eating out at a restaurant and using actual dollars. I definitely, looking back, could have made some really amazing financial choices in college, but it's a hard world out there. It's difficult to navigate a full course load, a part-time job, and being healthy.
I think my go-to was to call my parents and also just get things to eat in my room, depending on how much they wanted to give me or what we could negotiate. So a lot of times if I would run out of meal points, I would end up like just cooking ramen in my microwave in my dorm and eating that, which is not super healthy. Do you want to share? some quick tips around saving money and budgeting your meal points specifically. I want to highlight two that I absolutely love. So instead of buying water bottles, plastic water bottles around campus as you're going about your day, buy a plastic reusable or even metal, just buy a reusable water bottle and start to use that. You can fill it up around campus at the water stations. They've got really good filtered water. It's a great way to not only save money, but also to save the environment, which we are all about here. Another one that I love is to, whenever you swipe in to go eat at the Commons, eat a full meal then, and then if you know you're not a big breakfast person, grab a banana for tomorrow or for a snack at some point. That's a good way to save a swipe into the Commons if you're only going to go in there to get a coffee and a banana anyway. The goal here is to just make healthy choices that will keep you full and energized.
I think also something for students to know is that your meal points roll over from fall into spring. So maybe your family has set you up for success with buying a level 3 meal plan. Recognize that at the end of the semester, you don't necessarily have to swipe or use that. It's not a use it or lose it system for the fall to the spring semesters. You can roll over those meal points into the next semester. So that is what we had for you today. Thank you all for tuning in. And please feel free to unmute yourselves, ask any questions that you might have, and or shoot us an email at finland@psu.edu.
Thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed being a guest speaker today on this webinar. And I loved talking about money and nutrition. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us or ask for email.